Good day, class. Let's now discuss the last lesson for this unit, which will be talking about graphic literature. In this particular lesson, we are going to determine what separates this literary genre from the other previously discussed literary genre. Now, let's begin our discussion. The main objectives of this lesson are the following. First, we need to define what graphic literature is. And we also need to identify the different kinds of graphic literature. So make sure that you have with you your notebook to jot down important discussions and questions that may be formed as we go along with our discussions. All right, let's begin. In this lesson, we are going to answer the most essential question. What makes graphic literature interesting? What do you think? From the word or term itself, graphic literature. What do you think makes it interesting and sets it apart? All right, let's try to answer this question as we progress with our discussions of our lesson. Now, in this lesson class, we are going to be encountering these vocabulary words that may seem to be quite unfamiliar. So let's try to decode them one by one. First, we have undertone. Undertone is a noun which means a particular but not obvious characteristic. Example, the short narrative has a political undertone. Contentious. Contentious is an adjective which means causing disagreement or argument. Example, total log ban is a contentious subject. Third, periodical. Periodical is a noun which means a newspaper or magazine that is published regularly. Example, my uncle subscribes to some periodicals dealing with sports. Fourth, humorous. Humorous is an adjective which means funny. Example, my nephew has a penchant for humorous films. And fifth, manga. Manga is a noun which means Japanese comic books. Example, most kids today like to read Japanese manga. So these are the different vocabulary words that we are going to come across during this discussion. Make sure that you're going to remember them so that we may be able to learn our context or our concepts, especially when we encounter these words. Now let's first talk about what is graphic literature. Graphic literature is also called sequential storytelling, wherein literature is in the form of comics. The term graphic literature has come to encompass not just works of fiction, but also autobiographical, narratives, non-fiction, and even poetry. This comes in different genres such as horror, historical fiction, romance, science fiction, and the like. Japanese manga is an example of graphic literature that has many followers, created in Japan and or written by Japanese. This is a famous example in the historical fiction Rurouni Kenshin, written and illustrated by Nobuhiro Watsuki. Graphic novels are popular examples of Alan Moore's V for Vendetta and Watchmen and Neil Gaiman's The Sandman. Filipino examples of graphic novels include Pablo Fabrejas' Filipino Heroes League, Adam David and Mervyn Malonzo, Ang Subversibo. Comic strips are periodicals released in serial format, often short, humorous, or adventure stories. Famous Filipino cartoonists include Apolonio Paul Medina Jr., wherein he illustrated for Pugad Baboy, and Jess Abrera for A. Lipin, Ang Pinoy Nga. Here are some examples of comic strips or graphic literature. In the common sense, or if we put it simply into a context, graphic literature is still literature because it possesses the different elements of fiction. However, it is more based or it is more incorporated with the usage of graphics, images, pictures, symbolisms to illustrate better and to expound the context in which this literature is being formed into. Now, I want you to answer these guide questions after you view this particular comic strips. View this or answer these guide questions and try to understand the concept of graphic literature better. Now, if this is a very informative discussion, though brief, make sure to write down questions and key discussions so that we may be able to understand them better as we go along with our discussions. Thank you for watching, and once again, keep safe.